It was 100% the unknown, that you didn't know what this game, this competition, the sport was going to hold for you in the future. You just didn't know. But you were representing something bigger, and I was from Southland and playing for Otago that then had come together with North Otago to become one team, and so we're playing in front of a different crowd, we're playing at a different time of the year, we're building towards something for the All Blacks a little bit later on in the season that hadn't been done. So everything in that 1996 year was new. We trained more, we had more time, we practiced a lot of attack and not a lot of defence. We played a lot more golf. We literally, everything was different, so, and of course we were getting paid. We were professionals, so you pulled the jersey on, it had all the values associated with the game, but the game was never going to be the same again. And it was different almost every week because it was a different venue, a different team, different crowd, and all of a sudden we're playing South Africa, we're playing Australia, and everyone's professional.
So the birth of the club, at the same time the birth of professional rugby, and along comes that jersey, and you're in the grandstand, and you're underneath the grandstand, no sawdust on the floor probably, and you put that out and you look at that and you go, what?
It's the first time. It's the first time you're wearing something new, the start of the Highlanders. It's the first time that you're going to hear a different celebration, you're going to hear a different chant, there's a different responsibility, there's a different level of anticipation, expectation, but also that ability to get better. And so when you see a jersey, and it's just like anything you do for the first time, whether it be a provincial jersey, a club jersey, a school jersey, an All Black jersey, when there's a first, you'll always remember that. That's a moment in time in your career. And where it goes to from there, you don't know.
And that's important. So there's, in a sense, you're creating the history for the club week by week, game by game, season by season. And you guys successfully pushed through those early seasons. And 98, I call 98 in Auckland semi-final. I think Cheese Timmins might have dropped the ball a couple of metres out, whatever happened.
No, the ball was slightly behind him, remember?
Slightly behind
it was slightly
him. That's
behind
the way he tells it.
Yeah, it was slightly behind him. It wasn't right in front of him. No,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, look, but those are all, once again, there are moments in Super Rugby, and we look back now and we know that was the start of something special. We look back now that it was clearly different. Are we getting closer to those roots? I honestly believe that. So when I see that jersey, it almost feels as though we are going back in time, and that Super Rugby is going back in time, wanting to be that entertainment package. Whether the competitiveness that we had back then is the same now, I don't know, but if I look at it back then, it was exciting, it was new, the sun was out, there was a different energy about that competition. And so that jersey actually meant something quite significantly different than other jerseys, because it actually didn't have a legacy or a history. We were creating it week by week.
And some of the sights and sounds and images from those early years, you think about party at Tony Brown's, unfortunately not a win for the Highlanders, but all of those things go into the mosaic of the memory of the Highlanders. And so when you see that jersey, do those things spring to mind?
Look, when you're playing in the afternoons, you're playing with the sun on your back. Some days, it wasn't always sunny at Carisbrook, let's be fair. But
the odd wind blew up.
A little bit of southerly came through. But, I think, like I say, when you look back and you see those games and memories and you start looking at how the stadiums were different, how the fans were different, definitely how the game was played. We actually had just one referee. We didn't hear from anybody else. And
probably 30 referees.
And what he said went.
Yeah.
So all of those things, I think there was a purity to the game back then, because it still felt amateur, but played by semi-professionals trying to be professionals. And so, as people, you're growing because you're getting exposed to something completely different.
When you reflect on it now, as early pioneers of professional rugby, if you will, and guys who have laced in the legacy of the Highlanders. Are you comfortable with the effort and what you achieved, you guys? Does it sit nicely in your memory?
Well, it was you never want to say it's the best time of your life because you hope that's coming up.
Yeah.
But it was probably the best time of my life. I mean, that's the reality. You know, I was in a great environment with great people, with great fans, playing the sort of rugby that I wanted to play. And it was an extension of what I'd experienced for Otago that then manifested itself in the Highlanders, but we had different people from different areas. And you know, in those early days, we had guys coming from all around the country coming into our team, and that made us stronger, that made us better, that made us have a different personality. But in terms of the energy and the excitement and the great times and friendships and all the good things about sport that you remember, you know, those are things that will last forever. And the great thing about rugby is that, you know, you don't have to see someone for 5, 10, 15 years, but there are always things that connect you through that time. And so there are some of us who are connected more often, and there are those where there might be a reunion or a gathering or a moment where the communication lines open up again, and then you bump into someone and you remember a little bit of this and remember a little bit of that. You talk about the things that people should know and maybe they shouldn't know. And the fun that we had across the board though, but also I think leaving the jersey in a better place, because that's the story rugby's always had, no matter what level you play.
And I've asked others this question. When you see little kids today, wherever you see them, in your old hometown of Invercargill, we currently live now, Auckland, at any match, and you see them wearing the jersey, do you flash back and think you were part of something? You contributed to something that's happening 30 years later?
I think everyone does that. I think everyone does that. If you've been part of it, you've been involved and you've sacrificed for it and you've given it everything you possibly can, and you've put something into that jersey and into that club, and it's not necessarily seeing people wearing the jersey at games, but it's the people wearing the jersey around town on the other side of the world that tells you that you've made a lasting impact on people's lives. And I always look back to it, I loved the thought of putting smiles on people's faces. That's what they were there for, was to enjoy their experience. It was a pure case of entertainment. I did like to win, and I was competitive with it, but by the same token, I wanted the fans to go away feeling satisfied, you know, that they've had a great day out. Did that lead me to do the odd thing that I regret now? After the odd try and celebration that I have to live with the rest of my life? Absolutely. But at the time, I remember being wrapped up in the emotion of not just what was happening inside the lines, but what was happening outside. And people who have been fans for years and years, and new fans having the time of their life for a moment.
Yeah, when you think about those new fans, little kids who are wearing the jersey who don't remember, weren't even born. So in a sense, the jersey's paying it forward to the new generation who don't know the triumphs and the tragedies of the 30-year history, but love the team.
Where would I be without YouTube? Because these kids wouldn't know who I am. I mean, the reality is, like, that's but the fact that those stories are passed down, and you know, you've got dads who were there, who are kids, who are now dads, who remember those times being at the terraces for me at Carisbrook and in that stadium, you know, and I see that now when you get some momentum in and around the game, and you see it here at Forsyth Bar. You know, there's still the generational support for Highlanders, and as we know, if they're not your number one team, they're everybody's number two team.
Let's touch on that. Unique story, isn't it? The jersey, the history, the club. What makes the Highlanders unique in your view?
Because this was the land of opportunity. This is where players come to get the chance to compete and play when they may not have been able to get it elsewhere. I moved from Invercargill originally to Dunedin for opportunity, and that grew into being part of one team. That's what's great about the Highlanders, because this is where players get a chance to shine, to be the best they can possibly be in front of a unique fan base. And so when you get to be a part of that, it changes you. brings out the best in you as an athlete and hopefully as a person. So when you do get together, and whoever it might be, whether they've come from Argentina, whether they've come from Australia, whether they've come from the other side of the world or just come from up the road in New Zealand, they're a part of something for the rest of their lives.
Earlier, you see people all over the world wearing these jerseys. Is that speaking to the loyalty they have to the team, to the club, to the jersey itself, and the unique values that they take on and try and represent themselves? Is there an aspect of that?
I think there's an element of that. I think you'll find that most people who spent their time here have had a unique experience and been one of the best times of their lives, like me. And for a lot of people, it's generally when they're younger, you know, and they may have come back afterwards or a little bit later on, but you find people have had, 18 to 22, 23 for some people longer. It lasts a little bit longer. Yeah. But there's an energy that comes with that. A little bit of randomness, but an excitement in and around a lifestyle here in Dunedin. When you've got 30,000 students adding to a 90,000 population who've got a little bit of rugby in their blood, you know, there's an event to come to it that they can enjoy, and you know, when there's a wave of momentum in behind that, what we experienced, it's an unbelievable amount of fun. So for me, I think that's where, you know, if I look back at it and go, what was the best part of being here is that it was a melting pot of people all looking for an opportunity.
So the jersey's a takeaway or memento?
I think it's a memory in time. That's what people are wearing it for, you know, like that's why so many people's other team, because they maybe studied here for 1-2 years, they've come from Auckland, Christchurch, other side of the world to study, and they've bought a jersey or a t-shirt or whatever it might be, or gone to a game, and they can say that, well, I was at a Highlanders game and I saw this and that, but they know that it resonates with a lot of people. A lot of people remember those times.
Next year we produce a jersey that goes back to the future, if you will, back to square one, day one. That'll represent our history.
It won't be the same size, will it?
Well, I was thinking you might be able to slip into one, yeah.
Well,
what do you want, 11 or 15, 14 or 15?
Oh no, I just want one that's a bit bigger than the ones they wear today. Because I don't want to have to do this to get it on, you know, one of the dances, you know. Hopefully it's the modern material, because, you know, those things get sweaty and heavy and hard work. But no, I think it's great, you know, that once again, it'll resonate with people that I remember that jersey, you know. Who came up with the original? Well, in Canterbury were the originals, right? Canterbury until 1999, then Adidas, yeah. You know, I'd love to know the person who designed the first, decided that was it. Yeah. That's what it's going to look like, you know? Yeah. I'm not sure they put a lot of thought in it, but there we go. The colours are right. The colours are right. Mate, all I know is that I'm still driving a Ford. Can you get that plug in? That's right, I'm driving a Ford. That's right, yeah. So let's just touch a little bit on the. You've accurately described the names, the faces, some of the events you recall. When you're a supporter of the Highlanders, you're supporting the Highlanders, what does that jersey make you feel? What are the words that we'd use? Well, you generally have been the underdog, always have been, never really the favourite. So often when you're watching them, that's how they appear to play. That's how they appear to celebrate. That's how almost the fan base understand that every success is really important and should be celebrated. And I think that's what, you know, for me about the Highlanders is when I watch them, it's the fact that I want them to have a crack. I want them to have a go. I don't want them to die wondering. I don't want to be conservative. Don't play the percentages. You know, let the opposition know that they're going to have to play to the very end, but they're going to be tested. And, you know, I grew up with coaches and players that it was just as much about the opposition knowing that they would be in a fight for 80, 82, 84 minutes as it was a result on the scoreboard. And so you finish just as strong as you start. Do you see the same spirit in the team today as you guys tried to imbue in the team in 1996? Look, there's no doubt there have been tough times. There are for every franchise. And the Highlanders are one of those teams, because it's the land of opportunity, that the players they have in terms of, you have to say, ability is going to be maybe not quite as good as other teams, but the one thing you never doubt is effort. And that's the one thing I've never doubted, is you can see the effort. And that to me is the most important thing, because once you get the other parts right, that should be a non-negotiable, you start to get results. And so for me, I see it every year. You can see that they've done the work. It's just a matter of whether or not they can be the best team, because they may not have the best individuals, but collectively they can beat anybody. And that's what we've grown up with here. On our day, we're good enough to beat anybody.